What happens when you eject a customer, only to discover he's your boss? This manager learned the hard way. The showroom sparkled under the gentle glow of overhead lights, each luxury car displayed like a masterpiece. This wasn't just a dealership, it was a haven for the elite. A place where customers never inquired about price because if they did, they didn't belong. At the heart of it all stood Nicole Harrington, the newly appointed general manager. She'd climbed the ranks in the industry, earning a reputation as a no-nonsense professional, with a knack for identifying serious buyers and zero tolerance for time wasters. Located in Beverly Hills, this dealership wasn't a playground for Instagram influencers or dreamy 20-somethings. It catered to clients who signed contracts without a second thought. Nicole adjusted the cuff of her tailored blazer, observing her team. A salesman chatted with a couple admiring a Lamborghini Urus, while another escorted a suited businessman to the finance office. Everything was running smoothly until the door swung open. A man walked in alone. Something about him felt off. He wasn't poorly dressed, but he didn't fit the mold of their usual clientele. Jeans, a weathered leather jacket, dark sunglass-seshy stride was slow yet confident, as if he'd walked into 100 places like this and never questioned his place. Nicole's eyes narrowed as he approached a classic red Ferrari Testarossa near the entrance. It was a collector's item, priced well into six figures, not something to be touched without permission. She exhaled sharply. She knew his type looked the part, acted the part, but wasn't the real deal. She gave him a moment, hoping he was just admiring. But when his fingers trailed along the car's hood, she made up her mind. This was trouble. Nicole straightened her shoulders and approached, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. She had no idea how colossal a mistake she was about to make. "Excuse me, sir," she began, her tone polite but firm. The man turned slowly, his sunglasses hiding any reaction. "I'm the general manager here. Do you need assistance?" For a moment he didn't respond. Then, in a deep, gravelly voice, he said, "Yeah, nice car. You got a '72 Daytona in stock?" Nicole's patience thinned. A classic Ferrari Daytona wasn't something casually available. She tilted her head. "We don't typically keep vintage models on the floor for walk-ins." He shrugged, unfazed. "Ah, well, thought I'd ask." That was it for her. She'd played this game too many times. Some guy walks in, asks about something rare, and when told it's unavailable, launches into a spiel about his wealth and connections. She forced a tight smile. "If you're looking to make a serious purchase, I'd be happy to schedule an appointment with one of our specialists." Instead of agreeing, he chuckled softly. That was when she felt a spark of irritation. It wasn't what he said, but how he said it. The amusement in his voice, as if he found her entertaining. "Is something funny?" she asked, folding her arms. He tilted his head slightly, sizing her up. No, I get it." He waved a hand dismissively. "I don't look the part." Nicole didn't confirm or deny it. He wasn't wrong. His jacket looked lived in, his jeans worn, and his boots more suited for a motorcycle than a luxury car dealership. She kept her tone professional. "We cater to a specific clientele. You understand?" A long pause followed. Then he smiled, not a smirk, but a genuine, almost friendly grin. "Yeah, I understand." He turned back to the car, running his hand along the side panel again. That's when she lost her patience. "Sir, I'm going to have to ask you not to touch the vehicles." He lifted his hands in mock surrender. "Relax, I'm just looking." That was it. Enough was enough. Nicole stepped closer, her voice low. "This is a high-end dealership, not a museum. If you're just looking, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." The man sighed, shaking his head as he adjusted his jacket. All right. He turned as if to leave, then stopped. "Actually, mind if I take a look at that Aston Martin in the back?" Nicole nearly laughed. Now he was just wasting her time. She gestured toward the entrance. "Sir, I'm asking you to leave. Now." That's when a murmur spread among the staff. Her assistant manager, Greg, stood a few feet away, his face pale. The receptionist had her hand over her mouth. Something was wrong. Before Nicole could process it, a deep voice boomed across the showroom. "Mr. Stallone, I'm so sorry for the delay." Nicole's stomach dropped. She turned slowly, dreading what she was about to see. The regional director, Robert Tanner, was striding across the room, arms outstretched. And in that moment, everything clicked. The man she had just ejected wasn't a nobody. He was Sylvester Stallone. And worse, he wasn't just a customer. He was the new owner. The room fell silent. Nicole's heart pounded as she struggled to process what she had just done. Sylvester Stallone, the Sylvester Stallone, stood right in front of her, and she had treated him like some random guy off the street. Robert Tanner clapped Stallone on the back, his smile overly enthusiastic. "We're absolutely thrilled to have you here, sir. I apologize for any confusion." Nicole wanted to vanish. Stallone, hands in his jacket pockets, barely reacted. He just gave a small nod, as if none of this was a big deal. But it was. Tanner turned to Nicole, his expression a mix of panic and forced composure. "Nicole," he said, his voice tight, "would you mind explaining?" She couldn't think, couldn't move. I didn't know," she stammered. But Stallone cut her off. Nah. She was just doing her job. His voice was calm, almost amused. "Looking out for the place. That's a good thing, right?" Nicole blinked. Was he not mad? Tanner forced a nervous laugh. Of course. But, Miss Harrington is one of our best managers. I assure you this was just a misunderstanding." Nicole couldn't read Stallone's face. He wasn't angry. But he also wasn't brushing it off. He was studying her, as if considering something. Finally, he said, "So, you're the one running things here?" Nicole nodded quickly. "Yes, sir. I was recently promoted." Stallone let out a low hum. "You know, I gotta say, it's been a long time since someone told me to get lost." The room stayed silent. Nicole opened her mouth to apologize again, but he lifted a hand, stopping her. "I get it," he said simply. "You thought I was some guy wasting your time. You've got rules. You don't let just anybody walk in and do whatever they want. That's good." Nicole wasn't sure where this was going, but he continued. "What if I was a real customer? What if I was some guy just dressed down, looking to drop a few million here? You would have kicked me out anyway, right?" Her stomach twisted. He was right. She had judged him, assumed who he was based on a glance. I thought I was protecting the dealership's reputation," she said hesitantly. Stallone gave a small smirk. "That's the problem. You weren't protecting the dealership. You were protecting your idea of who belongs here." The words hit hard. Nicole felt her face heat up. She wanted to argue, to explain herself, but she knew he wasn't wrong. She had built her career on being sharp, efficient, and decisive, but in doing so, she had also been too rigid. She had looked at a living legend, a man who had built himself from nothing, and assumed he was nobody. Before she could respond, Stallone turned to Tanner. "We're going to have a little talk," he said. "Let's grab an office." Tanner nodded eagerly. "Of course, sir. Right this way." Nicole watched them walk off, her heart racing. Was she about to be fired? Or was something worse coming? She stood frozen, the weight of her mistake pressing down on her. The showroom, usually a place of controlled elegance, now felt hostile. Her employees were watching, whispering. She knew what they were thinking. She had just humiliated herself in front of Sylvester Stallone, the owner. Minutes felt like hours. Then the office door opened. Stallone walked out first, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. Tanner followed, his face flushed. Nicole's throat tightened. This was it. Stallone stopped in front of her. "Walk with me," he said. She hesitated for a split second before nodding. Every step felt heavy as she followed him through the showroom. Once they reached a quieter section, he stopped, glancing at a black Aston Martin DBS Superleggera. "You like this car?" he asked. Nicole swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. It's one of my favorites." He nodded. "Mine too." A beat of silence passed. Then he said, "You know why I bought this place?" Nicole shook her head. Stallone chuckled softly. "Because once, when I was younger, I walked into a dealership like this, and they treated me like I didn't belong." He turned to face her. "Kind of like what you did today." Nicole's chest tightened. This was it, she was done. But instead of firing her, Stallone sighed. "I get it. You worked your way up. You had to be tough, had to keep the wrong people out. But the thing is, sometimes you don't know who you're looking at." He took off his sunglasses, meeting her eyes for the first time. You ever hear that phrase? Every champion was once a contender who refused to give up. Nicole nodded slowly. Yeah. Stallone gave a small smirk. I said that. She felt a rush of embarrassment and respect, not for herself but for him. He put his sunglasses back on. You're good at your job. But being good at your job doesn't just mean knowing cars. It means knowing people. Nicole swallowed the lump in her throat. I understand. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. Good. Just as casually as he had arrived, he started walking away. Nicole blinked. Wait, what does this mean? Stallone paused, glancing over his shoulder. It means you still have a job. Relief flooded her until he added, for now. Whether you keep it, that's up to you. And just like that, he was gone. Nicole stood there, breathless. She hadn't been fired, but she hadn't been forgiven either. Now, she had something to prove. Over the next few days, Nicole made small but deliberate changes. She started watching people differently. When an older man in a faded polo shirt walked in, she didn't assume he was a time waster. She had a genuine conversation with him, and by the end of it, he placed an order for a brand new McLaren. When a young man in a hoodie strolled through the showroom, she approached him like any other customer. Turns out, he was a record producer looking to buy his third Ferrari. It was humbling. Every day, she saw a reflection of her past mistake, and every day, she corrected it. 2 weeks later, Stallone walked through the doors again. Nicole's entire body went rigid. This was it. Had she done enough? He strolled through the showroom, glancing at the cars with the same calm energy. Then, without warning, he turned to her. You've been working on it, he said. Nicole stood tall. Yes, sir. Stallone nodded, studying her. Then, for the first time, he gave a small, satisfied grin. Good. He gestured toward a Bugatti Chiron in the corner. Now, let's talk about my car. Nicole exhaled. She wasn't fired. She had earned her place. The sale went through flawlessly. When the paperwork was done, Stallone leaned back in her office chair, arms crossed. You did good, he said simply. Nicole felt relief wash over her, but also something else. She felt different, more aware, more in control. As Stallone stood to leave, he tilted his head slightly. What did you learn? She didn't hesitate. That I was running this place like a gatekeeper instead of a leader. Stallone's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. And? He pressed. She took a breath. That success isn't just about knowing the product. It's about knowing people. A pause. Then Stallone gave a small nod of approval. Now, you're getting it. With that, he walked out. Nicole watched as he disappeared through the front entrance. She had changed, and that was worth more than any sale. Judgment is easy. Understanding is harder. Nicole thought she knew who belonged in her showroom, but her biases had blinded her. She almost lost everything because of it. Every person has a story you don't know. Sometimes, the ones who seem the least important are the ones who matter the most. So before you judge someone based on appearance, status, or assumptions, ask yourself, what if you're wrong? Because one day, you might find out the hard way